Hi, everyone. Welcome to Nurturing Yourself Through Grief. I don't think there's ever been a time in our history where people across the entire globe have and are experiencing this level of grief. Think about it. There's been so much loss and devastation of every kind imaginable that has impacted each and every one of us, including the most commonly thought of death of a loved one, whether it's with or without fur. And it's for this reason I was drawn to providing some basic information about grief, along with some practical, doable steps to nurture yourself as you go through this process. My name is Carol Mastriani. I am an empowerment coach at Be Your Influence, where I truly believe that each and every one of us can consciously create our reality. Now, grief can be anything from the death of a loved one to the loss of a job. It could be a divorce, or it could be any of the myriad things that we have experienced as our world has been turned upside down in the last 2+ years. And truly, the list goes on. And one of the things with grief is there's no one size fits all. It's a process that is as unique to each individual person as our own fingerprint. So truly, grief is a personal journey. So why am I here talking about grief? Well, I think each of us is uniquely qualified to talk about it. So let me give you a little bit of my background. Back when I was 11 years old, my mother died from suicide. I'm the one who found her. As a matter of fact, I even spoke to her just a few hours about it, a few hours before she died. At that time, I was 11 and my younger sister, Kathy, was 6. Fast forward 8 years, when I was 19 and my sister was 14, our dad died from a massive heart attack, leaving just the two of us. Also that year, we lived in a neighborhood that was very close knit, and it was the whole neighborhood that raised the children. We had 7 of our neighbors die, and we also had both of our grandparents die that year too. So needless to say, I've actually spent my almost entire life, and for sure entire adult life, with this whole grief process. So let me just go and share my screen really quick. There we go. And I don't know about you, if you're a type A personality. I know I am, and I have been. And when I heard that there were 5 stages of grief, I thought, no problem. I'm just going to follow it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and get through the grief and be done with it. I'm just going to move on with my life and I'm going to feel a heck of a lot better. Well, as I'm sure you've probably experienced too, grief is anything but this linear process, this beautiful 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Grief is all over the place. It's messy. It's unexpected. It catches us by surprise. And it's never ending, which is why I really like this one quote from Chelsea, where she says, grief, a unique, never ending journey. It's a constant project of the soul. Now, grief is not to be rushed, forced, compared, judged, minimized, ignored, stuffed down, nor done alone. And unfortunately, like even in the same family, each person experiences it in a different way. And also the whole done alone, the last 2+ years, there has been way too much done alone, and not by choice, but just by circumstance. Grief can also do a complete 180 when there's addiction or mental health issue involved. And this is the reason why I shared my story, because what ended up happening is that not even 24 hours later, my dad told me that I needed to tell people that my mom's heart stopped if they asked what happened. And I told him that's not what happened. So he wanted me to lie. It was because of this thing called shame, called stigma, and the secretiveness of those deaths that are from an addiction or an accidental overdose or mental health that's a suicide. And to add to that, now looking at some of my friends or other people that I've known from afar, I see that they've had a loved one die from COVID, and that loved one wasn't vaccinated. And the amount of hate and scrutiny that these people have experienced at a time where they needed love and support and uplifting has really been heartbreaking. So this adds a whole nother level to the grief process. I really like what John Frederick Wilson said in his May 13th, 2020 article, What is the Point of Grief? He says life is split into two halves. There's the before the loss and after the loss. We grieve for the loss of the safe and familiar, and it feels as though things will never be the same again. It truly does. The loss of a loved one triggers both the grief of separation and the loss of our assumptive world in which they were a part. But over time, we adapt to our world. We relearn the world changed by our loss. Which I find very interesting, because when I look at Dr. Joe Dispenza's information, so here we think at any time 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, of which 90% are thoughts we had the day before. So when you think from past memories, you can only recreate past experiences. So think about what I just read about how life with grief, you have this life before that was with this person, or maybe with this job, or with this situation. Then you have life after. Well, how do you get to life after easily? You can't if you are really thinking, if your thoughts are based in the past. Another thing that's interesting is that thoughts are the language of the brain, where feelings are the language of the body. And we spend only 5% of our day on a conscious level, where 95% of our day is spent on a non-conscious level. So I point this out because I think sometimes we can be very hard on ourselves during this grief process. And a lot of it, we are just hardwired to live in the past. Then when you look at, let's say, death of a loved one equals a significant event, this actually creates chemical changes in our brain and our body and in our body's memory. So what I want to do is I want to show you some different techniques, different tips, different tools, so that you know what you can do for you to help get through this process. So the first thing is about breathing. And breathing, so often when we're stressed, we shallow breathe. It's just from the chest up. And that's why I love box breathing. Box breathing is something that the special ops uses, elite athletes, boardrooms, and now you. So what box breathing is an inhale for a count of 4, you hold for a count of 4, you release for a count of 4, and then you wait and repeat the pattern. So let's try this. Just sit comfortably. You can do this with your eyes open or closed, but I want you just to inhale 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4, release 2, 3, 4, wait 2, 3, 4, breathe in 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4, release 2, 3, 4, and wait 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, hold, release, and wait. It's important to do this at least 3 times, so then that way you can actually shift to a more unstressed level. Another thing that's really nice about breathing is we tend to live vertically during the day, or horizontally, I mean, where we get very scattered and splattered. And when we're able to bring ourselves back to center, back to the vertical, we can kind of collect the different pieces of ourselves that got scattered and splattered along the way. Now, another breathing technique you can do is the 4-7-8 breathing, which is breathing in for a count of 4, holding for a count of 7, and releasing for a count of 8. What's really nice about this one is when we do a breathing technique where we actually release is longer than our breathing in, it brings us more to a conscious present level. And it really helps us because you have to really pay attention. Breathing out for 8 takes a little bit of concentration. So it helps you really clear the space and clear your mind. Another thing I love that you can do anywhere is your hand over your heart. So it can be either hand, whatever one is most comfortable for you. I tend to switch them out. It's so nice. It can calm you down. And also, if you want to add in, you could put another hand over where your belly button is, which is the center of your being, and just gives you a nice, reassuring feeling. Something else you can do is grounding. And this is something you can go outside if you're comfortable going outside barefoot, stand in the grass, stand in the dirt. Mother Earth is an electromagnetic field, and we're electromagnetic beings. So what ends up happening is we interact with each other, and it actually draws down our energy, and you can release your toxic energy right into the ground. And Mother Earth does such a great job of transmuting it into something beautiful. You can also put your hands in the dirt, or even right now where you're sitting, or you can stand. I just make sure your feet are firmly planted. And I've actually gotten to the point where I actually can visualize roots going down into the ground. And it's just so anchoring, because so often when we're in the grief process, we can get very scattered and splattered and kind of airy, where we almost feel like we're out of our bodies. I don't know if you've ever had that experience, that you don't feel grounded. So now another thing is that this is what I've found has helped work for me. And it's like really we need a new way to look through and see our world. And so I came up with SPECS, which that acronym stands for Spiritual, Physical, Emotional, Connection, and Space, because these were really the 5 areas that made a big game changer for me. So the first one is spiritual, and it's connecting with your faith and connecting with your beliefs. And if this has been a time where maybe you've been away from your faith, it's a great time to try and revisit and explore. Another thing is music. Music is a great way, whether it's calming music or it's energizing music. Music is a great way to speak to your soul. Meditation. This doesn't have to be a long, drawn out meditation. This just could be for a couple of minutes. There are wonderful guided meditations on YouTube, or you can do a walking meditation. And meditating isn't about clearing your head. It's about just being present and noticing what comes up for you. Nature, just going out in nature. You can't help but feel better being around the greenery or the trees, or if you're in the desert, being around those beautiful red rocks. Self-love. Louise Hay has a beautiful practice, and it's called mirror work. I want you just to try this if you've never done it before. The next time you're in the bathroom, look at yourself in the mirror. And I want you to notice what you notice, because so often we notice like maybe the wrinkles around our eyes, or, oh my God, there's another gray hair, or who knows what we're going through. So much has happened the last couple of years. Anyways, what I want you to try and do is just smile at yourself. It may feel uncomfortable, probably will. I want you to do this each day until you can work up to the place where you can genuinely say and look at yourself, I love you. And you can even go and just search Louise Hay mirror work, and there's so much more information around that. Which brings me to all of this has to do with inner work. Grief is an inside out job. You really need to do that inner work, because our emotions, our feelings, our thoughts, they're all within us. There's also creativity. Tap into that inner child and do something creative. It gets the other part of your brain working. It also opens you up to endless possibilities and is a great way to be present, and is truly a spiritual practice. Now, the second area was physical. So of course, it's about keeping our body temple in top form as best as possible. And sleep is just one of the foundation pieces. There are a lot of great sleep apps out there, information because a lot of times when we're going through stuff, sleep is not something that we do well, or we do too well. Hydration, keeping ourselves hydrated. Make sure, nice big thing of water. and drink it throughout the day. Food, your gut health, all of the information about our microbiome and how having the proper nutrients in our gut is actually something that can regulate our mood and our emotions even better because it connects right up to our brain, even better than some medications. Exercise, whether it's going to the gym, doing an aerobic program, doing some weights, which I love to do, even doing body weight things, or just some movement. It can be dance. Do a 30-second dance party at your desk sometime. Stretching is another great thing. I do this throughout the day. It helps you connect back in with your physical self, and it feels good. Preventive health practices, routine exams. I bring this up because I know for a fact that so many of us, when we are going through this grief process, we forget about taking care of ourselves. And if we're going to be there for anyone else, we need to be there for ourselves first. And then finally, massage, chiropractic, personal trainer, any sort of professional that can help you get your body in tip-top shape, at least as best as possible. Now, emotional is the second category. What are you feeding yourself? And I mean, what are you listening to? What are you watching? When our glass is not filled up at the moment, we want to be putting in things into us that make us feel good, that are more positive, that are more high vibration, which I can tell you the news is not. And it's not that you're going to lose touch with what's going on in the world. It's just you don't need to be glued to have the apps always on or have your TV on. It's important to take a break because there's actually a lot of negative energy with this fear-based media that we're living with. We live off of two emotional bases. Everything is either out of love or out of fear. And when we're trying to heal ourselves in the grieving process, we want to do more things that are higher vibrational coming out of the love foundation. Who are your mentors? And these don't have to be people you know. There's so many ways that we connect online through our different social media apps, through books, Audible, whatever. When I was going through a really difficult time a number of years ago, I literally listened to Dr. Wayne Dyer nonstop for about 60 days. Anytime I was not working or with my children, I was listening to him. I just really there was something about his voice and his presence and his message that it was so calming, just so calming. Find your Dr. Wayne Dyer because it can really make a difference. Also, how are you proactively reducing stress? For example, are there things that you can get set up the night before because so often when we're going through the grief process, getting up and getting going in the morning can be more difficult. So can you get maybe your smoothie, made the night before? Can you get your lunch packed or your kids' lunches packed? Can you set out your clothes and get the prep done so you know exactly what you need to do the next day? And how about professional support? Could be a therapist, a psychologist. What about the different energy modalities such as EFT, emotional freedom technique, or Reiki, which actually helps move this toxic energy up and out of us? Or what about a coach or guide, someone that's just going to help you check in with yourself and just really try and get over this hump? What about journaling or writing? Now, I'm going to admit right now, I love the idea of journaling, but I'm not a journaling gal. I have the most beautiful journals here. However, I'm much more of an emotional writer. And what I mean by this is if you're a journaler, go for it. However, there'll be times that if something is bothering you, just grab a sheet of paper, grab a pen, and write. It doesn't have to be grammatically correct. You can even start out with a question prompt. The thing that is bothering me now is, and just go for it. And just write until you feel complete. And this is something where you are actually energetically releasing that energy from within you through your hand into the pen, onto the paper. And then here's the best part. Crumble that up, rip it, shred it, burn it, be done with it. It can feel really good. So now let's move to connection. And this is, who do you spend time with? And more importantly, how do you feel with the people you spend time with? Start noticing what people that you feel more energized. You feel more at peace, more calm. You feel like your glass is being refilled. And then also notice those people where you feel more drained, or that your vibration, that you feel more down. And it's not that you have to eliminate those people. It's just you maybe don't spend as much time around those people until you can get a better handle on yourself. And another thing, once again, who is your support team? We already talked about a number of these, but how about a specialized support group? This whole internet world, it's so great. We can connect with people all over the world. We can even start our own group. Or what about an accountability partner? That's someone who maybe is going through something similar as you right now, or maybe is a little bit ahead of you, that you check in once a week or a couple times a week. What about a cleaning person, or maybe someone to cut your lawn? And I'm not talking about like what I did the couple times. I got a cleaning person where I cleaned my entire house before they came. Like, have you ever done that? It's like, why am I doing this? Why am I paying someone to come in? But anyways, just think about it. It doesn't have to be forever. I know so much of us, we can do it all, right? But sometimes just to get over that hump, it's important to give and receive. That's the law of giving and receiving. And if we're always giving and we're not receiving, then we're out of balance. And what about honoring your loved one? Once again, this is a different type of connection. Can you create an altar with things, with memories, with thoughts? Or is there some way that maybe you can do a ceremony to honor them? Or maybe it's a loss of a job, or you had to move and you didn't want to, or you went through a divorce or whatever. I highly recommend Jane Hart's book, Spiritual Power Tools, Support for the Soul. She has this wonderful, it's the 7 steps for successful life transition. And she really takes you through it. And it's something that even you can tailor this. And for example, one time when we were moving from the house that our children, and we grew up with our children, we even had our children participate in this. So it's a very beautiful process. Now get to your space, where you live, work, spend time. So just pick one room. Where's the room that you spend the majority of your time? And how does it feel to be in your space? Take an inventory of it. For example, are all the light bulbs working? Is there maybe a wall that you would love to have a picture on? Is there some clutter that maybe you need to clean up? Is there some chips in the paint? How can you make just one space feel really good for you to be in? It's amazing how this is where that 95% non-conscious level comes in. We still are noticing things. It's just, we're so used to being in these spaces that we don't actually have to consciously go, oh, wow, that light bulb is out. Or gosh, I didn't put away this pile of paper. Just one room at a time, baby steps. And also, what about your personal space? No is a complete sentence. And it's really important to start practicing no and being very conscious of what you're saying yes to. Because when you're going through the grieving process, our energy is already depleted. We're not operating at full steam. And so it's really important to be selective. You're not being mean. It's about giving to yourself so you can recharge, so then you can be there for others. And then what's also, when you're around people, sometimes the physical space, when you're maybe not feeling as great and you're really feeling the feels from the grieving process. For example, maybe if you go somewhere, you want to stay a little bit further away from other people. Or maybe where you sit on an aisle, so you just feel like you have a little bit more air to breathe around you. It's okay. Or maybe even, I did this, even when I would go to church, for example, I didn't stay for coffee time. It took a Herculean effort just for me to even be in the space. And I just needed to retreat after. That's okay. That's about nurturing yourself. This is a time to regroup, reconnect, rebuild, reclaim yourself. And one of the things I've realized is that us humans, we have more layers than even an onion. Trust me, there's some days I truly wish I was just an onion. I would be done with this process by now. Like I mentioned before, sometimes our emotions pop up and surprise us. And as I explained earlier, My mom and my dad died when I was so much younger. Of course, only about 10 years younger, because right, I'm only 29 now, right? Just joking. No, truly, after all of these years, I am surprised that I am still revisiting things. And it's not in the same way though, because I'm not in the same place. Sometimes it's about reclaiming a piece of myself that I wasn't able to do so when I was younger. Or maybe it's taking that look at it once again through my new different eyes because I'm older and wiser. And I'm able to reclaim that piece of myself, which actually helps me up level in a way that I have grown more resilient and stronger throughout the process. And being present is a gift to yourself. We've all heard it. When we live in the past, that causes depression. And when we live too far in the future, that can be stress and anxiety. However, but take an inventory of right here, right now. You and I are together. Feel very blessed to be here with you. And truly, if we're truly present, it is a gift to ourselves. I really hope that you at least maybe have a little bit different perspective of this grief process so that you're not as hard on yourself. And that you also see that not everyone is going to go through the grief process like you. As well as maybe you picked up one tip, one nugget that's doable, that's practical, that will help you throughout your life, because grief is one thing that we all experience, and we all experience at different times in different ways. If you have any questions, any thoughts, please reach out to me. Once again, I'm Carol Mastriani at Be Your Influence, beyourinfluence.com. And you can reach me at my email as well as on the phone. Thank you so much for being here. And I truly send love and gratitude. Have a blessed day.